What is up, guys? It's your boy MDKN and also Krack'N, and we are back with the 2-year ownership review of this beast of a car. And today in this video we're just going to talk about how it's been and what it is like owning a Kona N. So like I said, I've had this car for 2 years and about 29,000 miles. It shows a little bit over 41,000 on the odometer currently, but I do want to give a shout out to All Things Automotive as well as Trent Sowers from there, because he got me into this car and gave me an absolutely unbeatable deal. I brought this thing home for $29,500 and got a trade-in of $12,500 for arguably what was a heavily beat up Tucson that had probably anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000 worth of broken parts that needed to be replaced or fixed. Yeah, they took the hit on that one, but it set me up for this thing. And I will tell you what, I am definitely not treating this thing like my Tucson. But I think we're first going to talk about the pros and cons that I've gathered over the 28,000 miles as well as 2 years that I've owned this vehicle. First thing that I've got to talk about as a pro, it is quite obvious that I'm going to talk about this. It's just the sheer driving pleasure. This car is unlike any vehicle I've ever driven. And keep in mind, I've driven quite a few cars like a Durango RT, Stinger GT, I've driven Super Duties, I've driven a lot of those cars and trucks. But truthfully, nothing has ever driven like a Hyundai N model. And you'll see, once we get this thing out on the road, just how incredible this car is and how much fun it is. You will never see me cackling, giggling like a little kid, clapping my hands and saying this car is absolutely stupid. The second pro is that this thing is surprisingly efficient. You would think that having a dedicated performance car would just mean mileage. This thing is absolutely insane on gas mileage. I will tell you that right now. When you're not romping on this thing and you just take it easy and daily drive it, you should get anywhere between 20 city and 27 highway. In fact, that I think is a lie. I took this thing on a trip up to Erie, Pennsylvania, which is about a 300-mile drive. I made it on one full tank of gas doing 75-80 the whole way up and averaging a whopping 29 miles to the gallon. And I did the same thing on the way home and averaged 28. That is unreal. I also took this thing on my dedicated fuel route, which starts on the Brownstown-Rossville exit and goes the whole way to Piazza Hyundai of Pottstown, taking 23 entirely. This thing averaged 35 miles to the gallon. 35 in a car that has almost 300 horsepower. In a subcompact SUV that has 300 horsepower. 35 miles to the gallon without using eco mode. Now, you cannot tell me that's not impressive. Over the almost 29,000 miles that I've had this car, I've actually averaged 21.9 miles to the gallon, which is actually pretty good considering that I am not easy on this car. Let's talk about pro number 3, and that this thing is actually a pretty great daily driver, provided that it's not wintertime and snowing. The suspension, when you dial it back, is actually quite plush. Yeah, it's a little bit on the stiffer side, a little firm, but in all truthful reality, it is not stiff at all. But you can make it stiff and make it pogo stick. The transmission and engine are both very refined. You can dial back the exhaust so it's not as shouty, and you can almost just kind of blend in with the traffic. Pro number 4 comes in the form of the safety equipment. There's a bunch of safety equipment and features up in this car, and I will list them all on the screen, but for a little car like this that costs $35,000 brand new, and all the performance features and technology that's in this car, I don't think anything can come close to touching the value of this thing. Definitely a big pro of this thing is the Harman Kardon audio system. It is fantastic for the price tag. Could use a little more bass, but the rest of it is just perfect. And I am a huge Harman Kardon fan because they make some of the best cheaper end stereo systems. The last and final pro that I have for you guys is just the car itself. There is nothing like it in its class. There is no real true competitors to this car because it is priced undercutting many rivals that it gets cross-shopped with, and you really can't even begin to say what for cars this thing really competes with. I mean, yes, you could say a Civic Type R, you could say a Golf R or GTI, but this thing is a crossover, not a hot hatch. But now we're going to talk about the bad things about this thing and the cons that I have. First off is the suspension. It is squeaky. It is a known issue on Kona N forums. It's just the thing of this car. To me, it doesn't bother me much because obviously for $35,000 and the amount of technology that is packed into this thing, you've got to give up something somewhere. The next con about this car is that the launch control doesn't always act right. About 90% of the time, the launch control does work properly. You have to push the brake and accelerator in and make sure you're in N mode with the ESC in sport mode. And if you do that, oftentimes it will work. But there has been times where the car just does not want to do it, or the car will do it, but it's like, whoa, 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 like it doesn't want to activate, even though it says ready. And if you launch it like that, it's just going to bog the living crap out of it. On top of that, sometimes the launch control isn't very consistent. Sometimes it just lets you peel tire like a madman. Other times it will actually hook up and book. Or as I like to say, hook and book. Now, I don't know if this is an issue specific to mine, how the launch control is almost sometimes not working right. I don't know if it's an electrical issue or it's a known issue on these Konas, but it's just kind of a little bit annoying when you go to try to use the launch control and all it does is and doesn't want to frickin', launch properly. Now, I'm almost certain you guys are probably going to expect this one, but like I said earlier, this thing is not great in the winter. It is front-wheel drive only with 300 horsepower just going to those front wheels. The pictures that I took of this thing directly after I got it ceramic coated were some of the best pictures I've took. But this thing nearly got stuck. The next con of this car is a little bit opinionated, and you can potentially throw me into it, but some of the N owners are very cocky. Some of them act like they've got the best vehicles in the world and nobody can touch them. Yes, there could be better cars than these. Yes, a Civic Type R could be objectively better. But if you think about it, the Civic Type R costs over $10,000 more than this thing. And that's without markups. You can walk into a Hyundai dealership in 2022 and 23 and buy one of these, and they will sell them to you at MSRP. Try saying that in a Civic. There's people that are out there buying $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 Civics. Just two things in the back here. First off is the cargo area. It is quite small. It's just tiny. I mean, you can fit a decent sized suitcase in here on top of this stuff and still close it, but you ain't got much room to go yet. That's one thing I miss about my Tucson and how much room that thing had. Now, as we're out back, we'll walk over to the next issue that I have, and that is the absolutely abysmal sized gas tank. Who in their right mind would have done a 27 mile to the gallon vehicle and put a 12.5 gallon fuel tank in this thing? Why Hyundai couldn't have put a bigger gas tank in this car and just rearranged packaging, especially considering they do not come with a spare tire, which is a huge con to me. They don't even come with a fix-a-flat kit. You have to buy that yourself. For $35,000 on a Kona, you don't even get a spare tire or a fix-a-flat kit. Weight savings, I know. But still, the fix-a-flat kit only adds maybe a couple of pounds. It's not going to hurt the performance of the car. The last and final con that I have of this car here, which is actually just not specific to this vehicle, it is also specific to all the N line. And that has to do with the terrible turning radius of this thing. It is hilarious that this thing has about 8 feet longer of a turning radius than my daily, which is a Kona Night. This thing really just does not have a great turning radius. There's been times where I've actually thought that I could get around and make a full turn, but I've actually had to stop and back up because I was going to hit the curb. But now let's go on to the big part here, and that is the problems I've had during ownership of this vehicle. This segment's actually going to be very short because I have not had very many issues with this car. The first of the major issues, which is the most major, is the knock sensor. It is a very common problem. Very common. No, these motors are actually quite reliable, and if you guys try to tell me it's not because of that Christian Matzoros guy, you guys need to read upon stuff because he had his car full bolt-on and tuned. I have photo proof of it in the forums, which he actually deleted, and he was trying to cover his rear and lie to Hyundai. So, good job on Hyundai for that. But the knock sensor has a known issue that it just does not like undercarriage washes. I've had the knock sensor come up 3 times on this car from car washes. Actually, that's a lie too. One of them, I hit a puddle in pouring down rain after installing my intercooler, and it actually triggered the knock sensor code, which is a P1326. And really, the only solution is to try to keep clearing the code or take it to the Hyundai dealership where they will replace the knock sensor and put dielectric grease on it, which is what I did after the 3rd knock sensor code. Next up on the issue list is the injectors. Many have said that they have failed. I've actually only had a code thrown. Now, I floored the thing in eco mode, which, yes, it's a performance car. You're not supposed to be in eco mode, but I was dumb, didn't realize it. I was coming home. It was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, taking my friend home from an Millennium concert in Maryland, and I just stomped on it, and it just said no, and threw a cylinder 1 misfire, PO401. And that problem was actually solvable right then and there. I cleared the code, and it never came back. And then I never drove the car in eco mode unless it was on a highway. The third and final issue we're going to talk about is right here, and that is the high pressure fuel pump. It is a known issue amongst many ends. So the issue with this fuel pump is that the valve seal will degrade over time, which allows the fuel to basically just flood the high pressure fuel pump, causing it to burn rich and can potentially actually throw misfire codes. Now, Hyundai did actually issue a recall recently for that covers Veloster, Elantra, and these Konas. But even more recent, literally not even a few days ago, Hyundai added an extended warranty to that high pressure fuel pump for 15 years and 150,000 miles for current owners, as well as any subsequent owners that own the vehicle, which is something that I applaud Hyundai for. I personally have not had an issue with the fuel pumps. I had gotten the recall done and it was just a software update. If there was any store codes, they would replace the high pressure fuel pump completely under warranty. And knock on wood, I hope I don't have any issues with this high pressure fuel pump. But let's start talking about how darn good this thing looks and what I've done to her. So we're going to start off up front here, and immediately one of the changes is obvious. There is a full Maxton design lip kit around the car. Front splitter, side skirts, the rear spats, as well as the wing spoiler. In addition, I've also got the Velocitech big mouth intake snorkel that is also illuminated, as well as the lit logos N badge. Now, you can't buy these anymore because Hyundai actually went and gave them a cease and desist, because Hyundai is quite protective of their N brand. Yes, I'm aware there's a lot of rock chips, but that's one thing that I am going to talk about, because I've already had to replace this front bumper once because my one friend decided to completely destroy my front lip. But I basically had to almost rebuild the entire front end, which is why I've also got the N badge and the intake snorkel, and that's also why this lower portion is not red. And the N-line bumpers, which this is actually an N-line bumper. It has the same part code. This is why there's no rear side reflectors, and it just cleans up the look so much better than just blacking it out. Up next, we have my summer wheel set. These are 19 by 8.5 with a positive 42 offset, variant alloys, heliums, and gloss bronze. And they are wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. There is the side skirts, as well as the little rear spat there, and the spoiler. But as we come to the back here, there is a small upgrade that I did. And that has to do with the reverse lights. I don't know why Hyundai didn't decide to make everything full LED, because that's basically what this entire car has. But the reverse lights and the plate lights were not LED from factory. Same with the interior. None of the lights in the interior were LED. I changed that because I do not like the imbalance of LED to halogens. Let's go ahead and take a look at the inside here. And I'll just tell you, the inside has held up very, very well. I've added carbon accents here and here along the steering wheel, as well as around the gear shift lever with some custom red wrap done by yours truly. These Kona sill protector vinyl pieces. Pardon the dirtiness. There's my floor mat by WeatherTech, and here are the two switches that I actually wired up myself to turn on and off both the emblem and the intake snorkel. And I did this on purpose because I wanted to be able to control everything from the inside of the car. I also added some paddle shifter extensions. These I found on Amazon. Sooner or later I'm going to have the actual magnetic paddle shifters that click real nice, but these have actually given me that good satisfaction as well. But one thing you guys will notice is the Alcantara headliner. Now, I did this all on my own. It was a full weekend project, as well as the A-pillars and dashboard piece here, as well as a little Kona insignia, which I might be removing soon and replacing with something if I can make a Krack'N badge or logo or something like that. I've also got tint-matched ceramic tint windows thanks to UrbanWorks and Lumar Films. And as we get out of the car, you might be like, why is your car so shiny? Well, that's because UrbanWorks also applied the Geon ceramic coating. And I've had it on for over a year now, which I actually have to go in and do my maintenance on it. And this car just looks so good. Now, as far as performance, I've got H&R lowering springs on her. It drops the front end about 0.7 of an inch and the rear about an inch. And my God, it handles so much better. But now we're going to open the hood and talk about the other mods that I have done to this thing, because I've actually added quite a few bolt-ons. So the big thing is obvious right here. This is my 6th CPLT carbon fiber intake. Then I also have my 6th 4-inch turbo inlet, as well as way down here, the 6th AB6 blow-off valve, which I don't know why it's not focusing. There we go. It just had it there, but now it went away. There we go. And then on top of that, we have the 6th intercooler. Those parts that I just mentioned came from my buddy Tyler, who runs Colorado N Club. And he traded his Kona N in, which was honestly actually one of my dream builds. That was kind of my inspiration behind this car, to build it up the way it is. I got all those parts off of him. And then, quite obviously, I've got to have my social tags under the hood, because I cannot tell you how many people actually look under the hood of this thing. Seeing that it is a Kona with the hood open and with the different performance parts added to it, you should see the look on some people's faces. I also splurged a little bit and got Redline Tuning hood struts, which are about $90 on eBay, I believe, and they were so worth it. And I also got myself a 6 Element Engineering catch can, and this thing has been doing great, because after 41,000 miles, I am shocked at just how clean the valve train is in this thing. It's almost like it doesn't have 41, almost 42,000 miles on it. So, what is my honest opinion after owning this vehicle after 2 years? The thrill and the fun and the satisfaction that I get from this car just gets better and better every single day. This platform's actually really good if you're pretty much a beginner to a performance car. Most of the stuff on this car is easy to work with. It's pretty reliable, including the DCT and many of the other features in this car. And it's just cheap. You can literally pick one of these Konas up with a little less mileage than mine for under $25. And for under $25,000, you can get a vehicle that has almost 300 wheel horsepower. That is a bargain compared to some of the other things out there, like a Golf R or Civic Type R, that command a pretty price tag. And after 2 years of owning this thing, it's just such a good freaking car. I have said it numerous times. This car is the best investment I have ever made in my entire life, and it is the best vehicle I have ever owned in my life and driven and everything. It's just such a check all the boxes type of vehicle. Yeah, it's got its shortcomings, but the shortcomings are easily overlooked, and when you drive it, it just washes those away. All right, guys, let's jump in to the Kona N and let's take this thing for a spin. Just love that startup. Now, currently I'm pushing around 300 horsepower with my mods, but I am not going for a power build on this car. And we're going to hurl it around the corner here. And man, this thing loves to get up and go. It is a rile of a car. Once this thing hits boost, it takes off. There is a lethal amount of turbo lag. Now, this car is not purposely dedicated to straight line speed. It is dedicated to cornering, track driving, autocross, which is why they brag a lot about how much time they've spent on the Nürburgring with this thing. There is a hint of body roll when it was stock, and the rear end is extremely playful on this car. It's gone out from under me a little bit. And I was like, quick chuck it in there. It just doesn't. It is very responsive. The steering is great. The chassis responds fantastic. And this car really does give you a lot of feedback. It tells you what it's doing. It just does it. And this is a perfect time to get on the power. And that was well over 60. On an uphill. This thing will scoot to 260 in a car and driver tested 4.8 seconds, which makes it faster than a Civic Type R. Push NGS. The brakes are strong. And the best part is with N grin shift, you can come right back to it. You don't have to wait for that period. If you're done with NGS, just push the button. And you don't have to wait for that period. Those pops are just fantastic. And every once in a while, I've noticed second gear, if you're hovering around 40 to 41 miles an hour, which equates to about 4,500 to 5,000 RPM. Let's see if I can try to get it to do it. You'll get louder backfires, and occasionally you might get a gunshot. Like that one. This thing is stupid. It is such a blast to drive. And owning this thing for 2 years, it has really grown on me. Like, I personally was kind of scared about this car because of how powerful it is with being front wheel drive. Which, yes, that is right, this thing is front wheel drive. But it has N corner carving differential, which is an ELSD. Now, there are things like N track sense shift, which puts the car into the optimal gear when driving on a racetrack. And with my personal experience with this car, it is actually really good at figuring out what gear it needs to be in. Then there is also N Power Shift, which is a special feature that delivers even more brutal shifts. Like, when I say brutal, it jolts, especially from first to second to third. Did you see the kick of the steering wheel? That was N Power Shift. It bucks the car and adds a little bit of a power cut that is abrupt enough to jolt you, which is freaking cool. If you get into the corner too early, it will tell you. You will start to understeer and plow, but you can feel the limit of where the car is at. And if you do it at just the right time, you can get the tail to step out on a Kona that is a Hyundai. You can get a car like this to step the tail out. We are going to launch this thing. So all you have to do is be in N mode, make sure your ESC is in sport mode, put your foot all the way on the brake, gas. That was 60. This thing hooked up this time. But anyways, this is MDKN. We are signing off. See you later with another video as well as potentially future car reviews.